What is the foundation to a successful day in your DC operations? A plan. In this episode of DC 101, we're going to cover just what that plan should look like, how to make an effective plan for you as a DC leader, and how to make sure that we can navigate those flow disruptors that get us off course when it comes to our plan. We'll talk to Chris Hamley of the Brecham Group today to cover all of these topics and make sure that you are getting your daily plan locked in and achieved. This is DC 101.
Well, without a plan, how do you know if you got it done or not, ultimately, right? We have to have some vision of what the day is going to look like. What do we have to accomplish? How do I have to put my people against those requirements in order to get it done? I have to start the day with some vision of what it needs to look like. So the first thing is understanding that how I start my day is very rarely how I'm going to end my day. So when we start the planning process, we have to know that something's going to happen, right? A lot of our roles and operations is about adapting and overcoming, right? Of how do we adjust throughout the day. But I have to start the day with that base understanding of here's what the goal is. I have this many units, this many orders, whatever that is, trying to get out the door. I also have this many people. So how do I best deploy those people? And then realistic expectations of, if I've always performed at 60 cartons an hour, I need to reasonably expect I'm going to perform about that same level again today. I can't come in with a plan that says, oh, I'm going to double my production today. So it starts with having a clear line of sight as to what the priorities are. It is of all of the things that have to happen in the operations, which are the must haves versus what are the nice to haves. We've all made decisions in operations like, hey, I'm going to shut down receiving for a while because outbound has to happen right now and receiving I can push off a bit. Now, that's a good short-term strategy, not a long-term strategy, but ultimately you can do that for hours of the day in order to accomplish the priority objectives. Now, as you start thinking about that, of how do those things happen throughout the day, it starts with I have to be engaged. I have to react to things as they unfold, not after the fact. I can't wait till the end of the day to figure out how to adjust my plan for the day. I have to do it throughout the day. So being engaged and having checkpoints along the way help me decide of are we on track or not, and do I need to adjust my plan? I think there are a number of things. We see things like not a realistic expectation of what the volume is going to look like today. Too often we're reliant on forecasts from the sales team or whoever as to what the day is going to look like. And, we see a day that says, oh, it's going to be 5,000 units today, but every other day of the week we do 10,000 units. It's realistic to expect we're probably going to have something closer to 10,000 units. Sometimes forecasts are not as accurate as we would like them to be. So we have to understand not only what a forecast says, but what the likelihood of volume looks like based on our knowledge of the business. And overlooking that happens a ton. Another component is not allowing for the contingency of I know something's going to happen. So therefore, I can't plan to be perfect all the time. I need to understand that there's some degree of flexibility I'm going to have in that plan. When you start making plans too rigid, they become difficult to execute. So whenever you have the best visibility to what your day is going to look like, you want to try to do as close to the actual time of operation as possible. If I know what tomorrow's going to look like tonight, then I can make my plan today, right? If I'm not going to know, if I'm in an e-com environment, I don't really know my workload until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, somebody needs to be building that plan early tomorrow morning then to execute.
For more information on how to get your operations to suck less, check out the Brecham Group.